Creating the lower body. Here we're going to start working with the lower body of our character. First thing I will recommend you to do, grab both of this geometry, the torso and the hand. Go ahead and Control H. That's going to hide them. If you have your outliner out, you'll be able to always get your hidden objects back by doing Shift H. You can also go into Display, Show, and then say Show All. For now, we're going to keep them hidden. I'm going to create a cylinder for the pelvis. Let's go ahead and bring that cylinder to our scene. Go into the inputs. Bring the radio up. Increase the height. Just look for a radius around 8 or 7. And then let's look for a height of about a 7. You can always go to the side view to get a good idea on how things are looking. Let's increase the radius. And what we're going to be doing now, let's go and select the faces. Let's actually increase that height a little more. Let's add some subdivisions. Maybe let's lower the subdivision axis, let's say to about a 12. And then the subdivision height to about a 3. What we're going to be doing now is grabbing half of our current geometry and deleting it. Go to faces, delete half of the geometry. Now let's go into the vertices and let's start moving them accordingly. Alright, at this point let's go ahead and select the top faces, get rid of those, and we'll do the same with the bottom faces. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is kind of moving on into the front view, and we're probably going to be pushing some of these vertices a little bit higher up. Kind of fix this a little bit. Somewhere there. Let's bring that down a bit. All right. Now let's go and select the edges at the bottom. And we're going to go and bridge them together. Go into Edit Mesh. Let's go Bridge Option Box. Let's do a smooth path. And let's do one division. Hit Apply. There we go. You can always play with the numbers of divisions here, especially if it's doing something a little weird. Let's see if we can fix this. Okay, so let's keep on fixing this up until we get what we want. All right. So it seems to be that if it's a curve, it's just gonna look very weird. We don't want that, obviously. So what I did is I changed that to curve type curve. Then we can add the number of subdivisions there. I would say maybe 3 is good. Therefore the taper and twist values won't really influence. our object here. We can close it. At this point, this will actually give us enough geometry for us to work with. So let's go into vertices, and down here we can now move some of these down, kind of create almost like a diaper effect with this, where we have an opening for where the leg will ultimately go through. Right, well, somewhere along these lines is where we want to end up. We can always add some more subdivisions if we need to, but for right now this will work just fine. Let's go ahead now and create the leg geometry. We're going to do so by creating yet another cylinder. Bring it up. Let's go into the inputs, change the radius, change the height. Let's go into the front view. Let's lower the subdivision axis. So like put that there. Push it down a bit. Let's increase the height. Let's go with about 6 for the subdivision height. And just like we did before, we're now going to delete the top of this cylinder we just created. Let's grab the vertices, move them in place, scale that up a little bit. Then with a combination of move and scale, go ahead and try to see if you can match the reference closer. All right. Now we can combine both of these objects. Then let's delete the history. And finally, let's bridge them together. So now everything that will be left is going to be for us to now readjust each one of these vertices up until it matches our reference. Alright, there we go. Now let's go ahead and keep adding some additional edge loops, especially on areas such as the knees, where things will be bending towards the bottom. And overall, look at your geometry. If you see, try to keep consistency within the size of your polygons. If you see areas where the polygons are too stretched out, make sure to add some additional edge loops. Now we can start adding some details to the pants. Alright, so for this next part, we're just going to be adding some more geometry and resolution to the pants. Now maybe here on the back side, we want to create a back pocket. We can do so by extruding this geometry. We can now go and extrude maybe one more time. Lowering the offset slightly. If you want to add more resolution to the top, you can always come in and just add additional edge loops. So whenever you have also geometry like this, another approach that you can take is going to be to add the soft selection that you will see right here. You can access this window by double clicking your move tool and then add the soft selection. You can now select the radius. Maybe let's do maybe about a 5. And what this does is allowing you to slightly move so that they soften as they go together. Let's go back and have on the soft selection to move some of these areas. Just like so. Another detail that we can do here for our character is going to be to create a seam that goes down along the pants, as well as some wrinkles here that we would be able to identify in our reference. So let's start here. For these edges, we can push some of them inwards while pushing here slightly outwards. Then we can grab some of these edges and then tighten them up, making them closer together. We can also add additional geometry in some of these other areas. Let's turn off soft selection for now. And maybe add some more geometry down this area. Now we can select the edge loops and we can play with the scale. We can scale some of these up. Well, maybe scaling some of the other ones down. It's going to be some variations that we can also do here and there to make the whole design a bit more dynamic. And now we're ready to actually add a seam that will go to the side of the pants. And one way that we can create this is by using the bevel option. Then kind of expand the fraction. It doesn't have to be that much. We can make it quite small. Maybe add some geometry inside, just like so. And maybe by selecting that edge, we can now push that inwards slightly. Maybe select both edges, push them inwards as well. Now be careful while doing this. Sometimes these techniques not necessarily function for everything. I think that instead what we're gonna do is just push them outwards just slightly. Let's see what we get. Press number 3. Okay, so we get a nice indication. Texture there. We see some wrinkling happening at the bottom. We can always add some more if we wanted to. We also have some indications of what's happening here. Maybe we'll add some more of that. And then we'll call it. Let's add some more edge loops. Tighten up some of the wrinkles here for the pants. Scale those up. Maybe this one will also scale up. Maybe the one below we scale slightly down. Same thing with this one. Okay, let's see what we get there. Okay, looking pretty good. So we have some sort of indication of a back pocket. Again, we can tighten this up by adding additional geometry, additional edge loops, just like so. Most of it will be covered by the t-shirt anyways. If it looks a little flat, we can always come here and kind of move this vertice. And same thing, we can also use these edges to add more dimension. There we go. Let's go ahead now. And for the last thing, let's look at our results by going into Mesh Mirror. Here we can address any other issues that we might encounter. Like this one starts to look a little weird, so we can go back into soft selection. This time around, we're also gonna set up the symmetry to be on object X. Select some of the faces, and now you can move some of these around. We can always go back and adjust it according to our references if needed. There you go, something like that. Let's see how that looks. It's looking good at the front. Here at the back, can definitely use some work. Always be watchful of your geometry as well. Let's push that in a little. Let's see our references. Okay. Okay, looking slightly better. You might need some more readjustments, but for now, I think we're good to move on to the next thing. Here, also, one thing that I'm just noticing is that maybe we need to take that all the way up so there's no gaps or holes. All right, so things are looking good. Let's keep moving forward.